it's my theory that these parents saw me after school on that meet the teacher night because I had carpool duty. I had worn a suit, and parents recognized that I looked different from the other teachers in the building, and out of hatred, birthed all of these stories from whatever they could find on me, which was my artwork. Hi, I'm Monica. I'm an elementary school art teacher who was placed on leave due to the discrimination of the parents in my school district. So it began on August 1st, 2022, which was before my school even started. The kids weren't back yet, and we were barely in training and setting up our classrooms. I had just graduated that May and got this amazing job opportunity teaching pre-K through fourth grade art in a small school district elementary school. It's extremely wealthy. Like, these were the 1% of downtown Censorville. I was super excited, and I just up and left everything and moved to downtown Censorville and was ready to go, right? Well, we had a meet the teacher night where parents got to come, and everyone was super, super kind and excited that I was there. The only questions I had were about some of the curriculum, which I was, excited to talk about. I didn't experience any red flags. So August 1st, my principal asked me to come in a day early to get my badge, and when I got there, she asked for a short profile and picture for the school newsletter. Within that newsletter, I called myself Mox Coles, or MX Coles. MX is a non-gender disclosing prefix, which I had always used through substituting in my student teaching career. Never had an issue with using it, but when the principal asked me to come into my classroom the next day, she advised me very, very respectfully and kindly that the neighborhood was something out of the 1950s, extremely conservative. And it probably would be a good idea to have a different prefix right off the bat my first year being with them, which, hurt my feelings, but I did understand. It was my first year, and I didn't feel the need to really fight for it. I explained my situation and how this has never been a problem for me before, but eventually just compromised and said, okay, I'll go by Miss Coles. So school started. It was fantastic. I had a dream team of special teachers. My principal and HR people were telling me that I was probably going to be the next teacher of the year. Things were going really, really, really well. School started on Wednesday, August 17th. On Friday, my principal comes in during my lunch period, and she's like, I'm 100% sure this did not happen, but I just have to address this with you. And I'm like, okay. And she tells me there's a rumor going around. The rumor was that a fourth grade boy in one of my classes raised his hand and asked about the way that I dressed, which was, I have short hair, button-ups, pants. The other teachers in the school have long, curled blonde hair, wear dresses and heels all day, every day. So my appearance is admittedly different from the rest of my staff, but it's nothing crazy, Anyway, I supposedly went into a whole rant about gender and pronouns and all of these ideas. First day of having these students in my class. Elementary school kids, mind you. None of that happened. No one ever asked about the way that I dressed. It was just completely false, and I told my principal that. She was like, yeah, of course. She said, I like the way you dress. I think it's great. Just trying to make me feel better. That Friday, I had gone out with a colleague who's like a floater between all of the rest of the schools, and we kind of became instant friends because she was also, I'll use the term, visibly queer. So we immediately found solidarity with each other. With that rumor and everything that happened, her and I went out for dinner just to talk about it. And I believe this is where the mistake happened. She asked about my art, and I allowed her to follow my art Instagram. Now, this art Instagram was completely under an alias name, not connected to my legal name, my education journey, or teaching career whatsoever, but it was public. It dates back to when I first started college, just tracking my own art journey, but I let her follow it. And by Sunday night of that same weekend, I start getting tons of follows by moms of my district. I could just tell it was them. So my belief is that they were stalking this other queer person, and the second that she had an additional follower, they just somehow found me. So shortly after getting those followers, I got an email from HR. It said, "You need to come in first thing Monday morning before school." And so I did, and they served me with a paper that said, "You are now placed on paid administrative leave." The person from HR had some of my posts printed out, all art projects from college. The most notable one was a charcoal drawing that from 2 years prior. It was the fourth photo into a post from a figure drawing class where we, of course, were drawing nude figures. Parents were saying that I was drawing minors, and I learned later that they had actually called 911 that Monday morning saying that their child would be in danger if they were put into my classroom. Nude drawings go back to the 15th century. It's not new. But even if it's not against the platform's rules, as HR told me, people can interpret it how they want. They also took projects of mine from other painting classes completely out of context and said that I was promoting suicide and just all of these things. The one where they said I was promoting suicide was a screenshot of a performance piece where I had a plastic bag near my face. HR even was like, "Obviously this isn't true. You went to art school to get an art degree and to be an art teacher. This is obviously a wrong situation, but we need to put you on leave because this has created a distraction." I have a file that they requested me to make for them, just describing what each artwork represented. And so after a few weeks of all these HR meetings, they tell me that I cannot go back to my elementary school where I was for fear that moms will be picketing out in the front yard and at superintendent meetings. I haven't been back to my classroom since that Friday. I'm not banned from the building. I can get with my principal to collect personal items, but I just haven't. It's too hard. During some of those HR meetings, I said, "You know this is slander, right? Why aren't you telling these parents, Monica was at art school, she did her artwork, and we hired her as an educator, and that's what matters?" When I said the word slander, they immediately said, "As the human resources team, we cannot recommend you do that, but you as an individual do clearly have a case." I never saw any of the emails of what those people said about me or screenshots from their phones. I never heard the 911 call or anything like that, and I don't want to see the things that they said if I don't absolutely have to. I did consult with an attorney. I met with one who was very high bar. He wanted me to get like a Netflix special and get on the news and like all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not encouraging to me. I just want to know my protections. Eventually, I was able to resign from my position without legal counsel, but it's still an option. As part of my separation agreement, all I can say is that I resigned from that district. That's about all I can say. The agreement, which I'm trying to dance around while talking here, is up after what would have been my contractual school year. So perhaps when that agreement ends, I can pursue other more public things. During the process of signing my release paperwork, HR said they wanted to get some statements to the parents from me, like my voice in a newsletter or in an email. They also wanted to give me a script or some kind of letter that I can give to my next school district to explain my very short employment with them. I've received recommendation letters from other people in this situation, but I cannot say who. I had heard of educators being virtually harassed or outed online, but I felt like my privacy was protected because that Instagram page was completely unconnected from my legal name. I don't think educators can have anything private. Like, you aren't protected in any way. There was one post 2 years ago where I was standing with one of my paintings. I think it should be more blunt in our teacher training. I think they should say, you can lose your job because someone made up a story about a particular post, even if it was years ago. 5th photo into one post. Your life can be changed because of what someone says. This district has now said that they are going to update their policies, basically saying that you cannot have any social media. It's my theory that these parents saw me after school on that meet the teacher night because I had carpool duty. I had worn a suit, and parents recognized that I looked different from the other teachers in the building, and out of hatred, birthed all of these stories from whatever they could find on me, which was my artwork. Some of my older family members told me that being a teacher here requires swallowing your identity. Censorville isn't like anything you've ever seen before. People are like, oh yeah, well, it's the wealth. Some of the things that I saw even going through my training just would make your jaw drop. These moms had brunches every morning in each other's mansions, and they're definitely a very, very tight group of people. They're housewives. They're beautiful and perfect and everything that you would imagine, and they don't do anything. It's wild. It's a trip, and it makes me sick. When I first started getting ready to teach there, I was already coping with the wealth just in itself. That was already something for me to get over since I had never seen anything like that. I think that only adds to why they just feel like they're so powerful and indestructible. Because of the wealth in that area, we were almost completely funded by our PTA. So it is, let's call a spade a spade. A lot of this is bribery. Before the kids even came back, we had our first PTA luncheon, and when we all got finished eating and talking, the president of the PTA stood up and handed everyone an envelope. We go back to our classrooms and opened up our envelopes, and it was a check, and it was enough. Our first paychecks weren't until September 20th, and we'd been working since June. So they gave us supplemental income to set up the classroom. There was a percentage suggested that would go towards our classroom and a percentage suggested to go towards us as a gift, but you don't have to show receipts. I was never told what my classroom budget would be. It was simply like, if you need something, you'll get it. The district itself has money to spend on its schools and its teachers, but the parents want to fund it, so they have. I mean, they have heavy, heavy, heavy donors, which is interesting because during all of our trainings, every single meeting that we went to, they made it very clear that we are not one of the highest paying districts. In fact, they never offered me any mental health support during all of this. HR told me to go get a massage. My first paycheck wasn't until September 20th, and they told me to go get a massage. All the money I got in that check from the parents, I did spend on my classroom. My team members, who were supportive of me from day one, are extremely embarrassed of their district and questioning everything. I mean, this could literally happen to anyone. I, for one, felt so targeted and disgusted from people looking through everything about me that I no longer have any social media whatsoever. I am completely isolated. I live in a city where I don't know anyone now, and I am disconnected from everything. It just completely ruined my short-term life because I had just graduated. And you know, a big part of me is super discouraged and doesn't want to teach right now, but I think about teaching again in another bigger urban district. That's what I originally wanted to do, like inner city school or a Title I, just somewhere where I feel needed. Of course, a child is a child, and every child needs you. That's something I was coming to terms with working where I was. Those bigger urban schools and communities need leaders, and I feel like I could find that if I chose to. I think that if people like me were to go public with their stories and call out these districts that have their own laws inside their bubbles, if the public were educated on what happened and how it was an injustice, and people like the parents that got me out of their school were held accountable, I think that at the very least, teacher training would be different at colleges and during trainings. I haven't slept a night since. I am stewing in my own anxieties about the people out there with my name and information who have ill intent against me. They had the power to remove me from this amazing opportunity that I moved to a new city for. And I'm being paid for being on leave, so I'm not struggling financially, but at what cost? I can pay my rent, sit at home, and not have to do anything, and lose my mind. But my sense of purpose is gone. My thinking about going into another school district, starting over, and testing this boundary of being a person again is horrifying. I am very discouraged from this profession. People tell me, we wanted you to be Teacher of the Year. You were a rock star. You're doing such a great thing, and all of that. And my team members, when this first happened, said, do not give up on being an educator. That's really hard. In the beginning of this, I almost felt guilty for not feeling guilty. I truly never felt like I did anything wrong. I feel like I'm having the worst punishment ever, and I did nothing but good. They saw me, and I think it was an immediate hatred response. If it wasn't my Instagram, I'm sure they would have found something else. Bottom line, it is all about education. I never opened up about my queer identity at all at my school. I just looked a certain way. And having me in that school was supposed to be education in itself, like being just someone who represents someone who looks different and things of that nature.